Carlos Alcaraz will walk into the court at Indian Wells for the first time this year on Saturday, and the draw has handed him a proper test straight away. Grigor Dimitrov is waiting in the second round, a man who has been to the semifinals of this very tournament and has beaten top 10 players on this surface convincingly, and who, even though is 34, carries a game that can dismantle a world number one on his day. So, in this video, we will cover exactly when and where to watch the match on TV and online. Take a look at the head-to-head history between these two, dig into Dimitrov's first-round performance and what he said afterwards, and explain why this one could be a lot more dangerous for Alcaraz than the scoreline will probably suggest. There are draws in tennis that you scroll past, and there are draws that make you stop and look twice. When the Indian Wells bracket came out and people started tracing Alcaraz's path through the top half, the name that caught attention was not a former world number one lurking in the quarters, or a dangerous grass courter who had reinvented himself on hard courts. It was Grigor Dimitrov, right there in the second round, before Alcaraz had even hit a competitive ball in the California desert. Not a wild card making up the numbers, not a qualifier riding a hot week. A man with a semi-final at this tournament to his name, a former world number 3, someone who has looked Carlos Alcaraz in the eye, across a tennis net before, and not blinked. And someone who had just come through a first-round match in 3 sets, coming back from 7 months out injured, heading into Saturday with a completely different mentality to anything he has walked onto a court with in years. That combination alone makes this fixture worth your full attention. To understand why Dimitrov is worth taking seriously this week, you have to go back further than Thursday evening at the Indian Wells Tennis Garden. You have to go back to Wimbledon last summer, where Dimitrov picked up a serious pectoral injury that effectively wiped out the rest of his 2025 season. Months of rehabilitation, a slow return, a first-round loss in Acapulco the week before this tournament, to Terence Atmain, the same man he would face in round 1 here. By the time Dimitrov walked onto the court in Indian Wells on Thursday, he was carrying a 7-match losing streak and real questions about whether the best of him was behind him at 34. What he produced across 2 hours and 28 minutes was not a masterclass, but it was something arguably more significant. It was evidence that the fire is still burning, that the competitive instinct is still sharp, and that the mental resilience he has sometimes struggled to access in big moments is suddenly, genuinely present. That first-round match against Atmain told a story in 3 acts. The first set was Dimitrov at his most comfortable. Clean movement, early ball striking, 6-4 with little fuss. The second set was Dimitrov at his most human. He had 7 break-point opportunities at 5-5. He converted none of them. He then dropped to serve in the following game, gifted Atmain the set 7-5, and stood at the changeover with a choice to make. What happened in the third set, a 6-4 win that he controlled more fully than the scoreline suggests, was the answer. He chose to keep competing. He chose not to let the frustration become the story. And that choice, for a player with his history in tight situations, matters more than any serve statistic or rally count. 16 breakpoint opportunities across the match. He kept knocking on the door even when it refused to open. That is not the profile of a player who is done. His opponent had every reason to feel confident coming in. Atmain is a left-hander whose serve creates uncomfortable angles for right-handed returners, whose ball striking is flat and aggressive off both wings, and who had beaten Dimitrov just 8 days earlier in Mexico. He was making his main draw debut at Indian Wells, having come through qualifying, playing with nothing to lose. The fact that Dimitrov found a way through, and found it convincingly in the decider, is exactly the kind of confidence boost that can turn a week around. And then he went and sat at the Tennis Channel desk and said what he said. "I'm always looking on my side of the net. At this point in my career, I'm almost always going to look at my side of the net and what I want to do. If I win, great. If I lose, great again. This is the mindset that I want to adopt a lot more." Grigor Dimitrov, post-match Indian Wells 2026. That answer tells you everything about where Dimitrov's head is right now. This is not someone performing indifference for the benefit of a camera. This is a 34-year-old professional who has consciously stripped away any extra mental weight from the occasion. And the second quote he gave that evening added a layer that the first one did not. "I love watching him play. He's just crushing the ball. I love him in a positive way, but at the same time, these are the moments for me that the fun part begins. How or what can I do differently or new or interesting that could potentially not only rattle him, but put him in a position where he doesn't really like that?" Grigor Dimitrov, Tennis Channel Desk, Indian Wells 2026. Now, the match itself. When is it, and how do you watch it? Carlos Alcaraz begins his Indian Wells campaign on Saturday, March 7th. He is in the top half of the draw and received the first round bye as the top seed, meaning this second round match against Dimitrov is his first competitive match of the entire tournament. The match is expected on Stadium 1, the main show court at the Indian Wells Tennis Garden in the evening session. Indian Wells traditionally puts headline matches under the lights, and an Alcaraz opener against a former world number 3 carries exactly the profile they want in that slot. Check the official order of play on the ATP Tour website or the BNP Paribas Open channels on Saturday morning for confirmed start times, as schedules can shift depending on how earlier matches run. In the United States, the entire tournament is exclusively on Tennis Channel. Every match, every court, every round, live on Tennis Channel and Tennis Channel 2, with coverage beginning at 10 a.m. Pacific daily. You can also stream through the Tennis Channel app with a qualifying subscription, or through Fubo TV, which carries Tennis Channel as part of its sports package and offers a free trial for new subscribers. There is no ESPN, no NBC. If you are in the States and you want Alcaraz versus Dimitrov live, Tennis Channel is your only legitimate broadcast option. On DirecTV, that is channel 217. For viewers in the United Kingdom, Sky Sports holds the ATP Masters 1000 broadcast rights, so Indian Wells is live on Sky Sports Tennis throughout the fortnight. If you do not have a Sky subscription, Now Sports sells day passes that give you full access without a monthly commitment. In Canada, TSN carries the tournament and streams it through the TSN app. In Australia, beIN Sports Australia has the rights, accessible through Foxtel or the beIN Sports Connect streaming service. For fans in India and across South Asia, Fan Code is the platform. They have expanded their tennis coverage significantly, and Indian Wells is fully included. In Japan, UNXT has the streaming rights. And for everywhere else in the world, Tennis TV, the ATP's own global subscription platform, covers nearly every territory outside the United States and China. Live streams of every court, replays, highlights, match archives. If you are planning to follow the Sunshine Double across both Indian Wells and Miami, it is genuinely one of the best value products in sports broadcasting right now. Now the actual tennis, because the head-to-head between these two is more interesting than the headline 4-2 record suggests. On paper, Alcaraz leads comfortably. He is the world number 1. He is on a 12-match winning streak to open 2026, having won the Australian Open, becoming the youngest man in history to complete the career Grand Slam, and then gone to Doha and won there as well, without dropping a set. He has not lost a competitive tennis match since last year's Indian Wells semifinal, when Jack Draper beat him 1-6, 6-0, 4-6 in one of the more surprising results of the season. The 4-2 record feels like it reflects the reality. But look at where Dimitrov's 2 wins came, and the picture gets considerably more nuanced. In Shanghai in 2023, he beat Alcaraz 5-7, 6-2, 6-4. In Miami in 2024, he beat him again, more emphatically, 6-2, 6-4. Both of those were on hard-court Masters 1000 surfaces. Exactly the conditions on Saturday. The only time Alcaraz beat Dimitrov convincingly on hard courts at a Masters event was right here at Indian Wells last year, and Dimitrov was managing a physical problem throughout that match. He moved poorly from the first game, lost 6-1, 6-1, and that result tells you almost nothing about what happens when both players are fit and competing at full capacity. Strip that match out, and Dimitrov's hard-court Masters record against Alcaraz is 2 wins from 2. Worth remembering on Saturday, the surface at Indian Wells is lake-hold hard court, which plays a touch slower than the hard courts at the US Open or the Australian Open. It rewards patient, deep ball striking and gives both players a fraction more time, which means the match tends to be decided by who can hold their shape under sustained pressure, rather than who can explode through short exchanges. Alcaraz thrives here in every respect. Heavy topspin forehand, the ability to construct points with depth and then accelerate through the court at precisely the right moment. Movement that covers the wide balls better than almost anyone in the game. He has a 23 record at Indian Wells since 2021, lifting the trophy in 2023 and 2024 to become the first back-to-back men's champion here since Novak Djokovic in 2016. He knows every corner of this place, but Dimitrov has genuine pedigree at this venue. Semifinals in 2021, quarterfinals in 2022. His game, a flat, penetrating backhand down the line that he can hit as a winner from anywhere in the court. A serve that buys him free points in streaks. The ability to take the ball early and end rallies before an opponent has settled suits Indian Wells. He is not a defensive grinder. He is a ball striker who can hurt you before the point has properly begun, and on a surface that rewards flat, aggressive hitting, he has every tool to make this difficult. The key question for Alcaraz is not whether he wins. The probability strongly favors him, but whether he comes through cleanly, or whether Dimitrov extracts enough to leave some wear and tear heading into the rounds ahead. Alcaraz arrives on a bye, completely fresh, but without competitive rhythm. That can be a very slight disadvantage, and Dimitrov is exactly the type of player who can exploit the opening couple of loose service games a top seed sometimes plays while finding their feet in a tournament. Watch the opening games on each side carefully. If Alcaraz holds his first service game with authority and finds his forehand early, this match probably unfolds as the rankings suggest. But if Dimitrov holds cleanly off the bat and starts stepping inside the baseline on Alcaraz's second serve, going flat down the line with that backhand before the rally can develop, it could be a genuinely competitive first set, and the momentum from a tight set in Dimitrov's favor would change the entire dynamic of what follows. There is also the broader draw to consider. Novak Djokovic is playing on Saturday in the same half, beginning his Indian Wells campaign against Kamil Majchrzak. If both navigate their sections, they are on course for a semi-final rematch of the Australian Open final, which Alcaraz won in January to complete his career Grand Slam. Djokovic is chasing his 102nd tour-level title and a record 6th Indian Wells crown that would take him past Federer for the most men's singles titles at this tournament. That potential semi-final is the match everyone is building towards in this half of the draw. But to get there, Alcaraz needs to handle Saturday, and Saturday is not a formality. Dimitrov's record here, his current mindset, and the hard-court head-to-head history, all of it points to a match that deserves considerably more respect than a routine second-round fixture usually gets. There is a version of this match that people are not talking about enough, and it involves the first 4 games of the second set. If Dimitrov takes the first set, or even makes it genuinely competitive before losing it in a tiebreak, the psychological landscape of this match shifts completely. Alcaraz is experienced and composed, but he is also 21 years old and playing his first match of a tournament he has won back-to-back. There is a version of him that comes out slightly tight, slightly cautious, not quite at the level his ranking demands. And a Dimitrov who has just pushed him through a difficult first set and finds himself level at 1 set apiece, playing under the Indian Wells lights in front of a crowd that loves an underdog story. That is a version of this match that could genuinely go anywhere. Do not assume the favorite wins simply because he is the favorite. The fitness question also hangs over this match in a way that cannot be fully answered until the players are actually moving around the court. Dimitrov came through 3 sets on Thursday, which is more wear on the legs than Alcaraz has put in all week. He is 34, coming back from a pectoral injury, playing only his second tournament since that rehabilitation period ended. In a best-of-3 match on a medium-pace hard court, fitness is usually not the deciding factor until the 3rd set. But if this match goes deep into a decider and the legs start to tighten, Alcaraz's physical advantage becomes significant. The counter-argument is that Dimitrov's match time on Thursday might actually work in his favor early on. He arrives with rhythm. He has already solved the problem of the first competitive match of a tournament, the one where the nerves are highest and the timing is hardest to find. Alcaraz has not played a match since Doha. On the first ball of the match, one of these players will be sharper than the other, and it may not be the one you expect. It is also worth noting what the Indian Wells crowd tends to do in a match like this. This is not a partisan crowd in the way that Roland Garros can be for French players, or the way that Flushing Meadows generates noise. Indian Wells is a knowledgeable crowd, a crowd that has been watching world-class tennis in the desert for decades, and they have a deep affection for Dimitrov. He has given them memorable nights here before, the 2021 run in particular, where he reached the semifinals and played some of the best tennis of his career, earned him genuine warmth from the California faithful. If Dimitrov starts well on Saturday evening and the crowd senses an upset brewing, Stadium 1 will get loud in a way that adds real pressure to Alcaraz. That crowd noise in a tight 3rd set is not a trivial thing. Ask any player who has been on the wrong side of it. So here is the full picture heading into the weekend. Carlos Alcaraz versus Grigor Dimitrov, Saturday, March 7th, Stadium 1, Indian Wells Tennis Garden, evening session. Tennis Channel in the United States, Sky Sports in the United Kingdom, TSN in Canada, BIN Sports in Australia, Fan Code in India, Unext in Japan, and Tennis TV for the rest of the world. Check local listings and the official ATP Tour order of play for confirmed times on Saturday morning. A world number 1 who has not dropped a match in 2026 against a 34-year-old who beat him twice in 3 meetings on hard-court master surfaces, who just fought through a 3-set first round against the player who beat him a week ago, and who is walking into Saturday with a philosophy that suggests the pressure of the occasion has simply stopped existing for him. Alcaraz is the favorite. He should win. But Grigor Dimitrov in the California desert, with nothing to lose, a healthy body, and a legitimate hard-court record against the world number 1, that is not a match you write off. Saturday evening, set your alarm. If you want to stay across everything at Indian Wells this week, from results to previews, draw analysis, and schedule updates all the way to the final, make sure to hit the subscribe and turn on notifications. We are covering the whole tournament. And drop a comment with your prediction. Is Alcaraz going to extend the streak to 13? Or does Dimitrov pull off the kind of result that reshapes the entire draw?